Yeah, you got to stop moving. It's like a meditative exercise. Imagine you're in a sauna. Yeah. And the toxins are coming out. Okay. We are going live. So studio silence, please. And a good morning to you, Lagos. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. It's time to delve into the world of detailed newspaper analysis inside of Freshly Pressed. Kicking things off this morning, we've got our fantastic panel of analysts all here for a Friday. We've got Tunde Okufi, aka Big Coofs. Good morning, Tunde.
Morning, Folu. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for showing up here. Looking really dapper in this white. Miss Ireti Bakari Yusuf is looking like the true Sisioge Lagos that she is. And she's in this morning as well. Good morning.
It's Christmas.
Yeah, I like it. You actually look like
I'm giving them some
ornament.
Christmas
I like it.
vibe. And look at this. I'm kind of balancing their color.
Bling things, bling things. And we've got Waji, the corporate MC. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Folu, and good morning, Lagos.
Hey, so Lagos, join us in the conversation. Please feel free to send in messages to us on Twitter by tweeting at Smooth981FM and using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981, or sending in those messages to our WhatsApp on 0809444091. And now our first story from this day newspaper. It's a sad bit of news, but we've got to get into it because unfortunately these attacks are still happening. 25 killed as bandits sack 3 communities in Zamfara. This is in the Magaji local, Bini Magaji local government area of Zamfara state. Those killed were said to be just working on their farms and they were attacked.
Yeah, I mean, look, we hear so many of these stories. It's easy to become desensitized to them. But I mean, just reading the nature of this was an unprovoked attack on a community. They're going about the normal business. These are people who were tilling around. They were harvesting sweet potatoes, harvesting their crop, and they were attacked in the afternoon, 1 p.m. And then the story here mentioned that I mean, this was done with such brazenness that they came back in the evening to attack neighboring villages without any worry of any sort of retribution or the law coming around. And that's surprising because the story also mentioned that Zamfara State has over 1,000 security personnel deployed. I mean, I don't think any state in the country is that big that if you actually had 1,000 security personnel deployed, it would be this open day for bandits to just take advantage of.
And it's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. So I begin to wonder what's the makeup of this 1,000. Are they a ragtag band of neighborhood watches, or do we have military there? Do we have
or were they diverted for some reason?
Or were they diverted for some other reason? We have a real problem when people can't go about their day-to-day business. This is the middle of the afternoon and unprovoked. The other thing to note is that there's no mention of Boko Haram here because
absolutely,
in this instance,
it's just an attack.
Yeah, in this instance, they can't handle Boko Haram. They can't handle an insurgency, right? We have a huge problem with insecurity within the country. Porous borders. There's no saying that these attacks or these attackers or within the country that come from across the border. So we have all sorts of issues, and we're in a situation where it seems easier to access guns than it is certain other resources, and you then have people going on rampage. Ultimately, just this, take on the next guy.
I think what we must hope from this point is that more information is given to us so that we can begin to piece together exactly why such a horrible incident took place. But we move on now to the next story from this day newspaper. It's infrastructural development. The federal government inaugurates a 15 million passenger capacity terminal at Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja. It's formally done. They're saying it's part of their commitment to developing Nigeria into a regional air transportation hub to enable it to assume a leadership position in the aviation subsector in Africa. One terminal. Your thoughts?
Good point.
To that point about one terminal, what does a 15 million passenger capacity terminal mean? Does that mean on a daily basis, on an annual basis?
Annual basis.
Good question.
Over 5 years.
Or per second. Per second.
It doesn't say, because I was in Abuja last day.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't see this.
You are looking for the 15 million.
Okay. couple of people have been asking if you flew recently. Please do send us a
No,
message.
a lot of people have been flying. People landed yesterday, and yes, there was a big grand thing. I got some WhatsApp messages of the opening and everything else. There was still some rubble up and down, and it looks like it's completed, but it is open. It's a new terminal that I believe that the China civil company, I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but they've been working with Nigerian government. CCEC. So basically, it's a good thing that this terminal has opened. It's been under construction for quite a while. I know I go to Abuja quite often, and I know for at least the last, maybe 9 years or so, 8 years, they've been constructing this. So it's good that it's finally up and running. I hope that this will now add capacity to allow more airlines to come in and also to allow more travel to happen.
Something interesting that is mentioned here is the rail line that sort of goes from the terminal, I believe, unless I'm making that, to the airport, and that's kind of important. Looking at transportation and finally getting to a place where we are linking places within cities, if not yet regionally. Even though the Minister for Transportation was talking about Ibadan.
Thank you very much. So I think what needs to be done is needs to be tested, it needs to be reported on. So I think it's just one thing for these things to be indicated, but it's another thing for people to actually experience these things that have been put in place to see how viable it is, and also if these things do add to the stress that, or do reduce the stress that commuters experience when going in and out of Abuja.
Yes.
Because I know recently when you drive into the Abuja airport, it is quite tasking. You can spend anywhere
it's
from,
a nightmare.
you can spend anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes just literally getting from the toll gate into the terminal.
Yes.
So I hope this does alleviate a lot of the stress. I hope they've opened up those barricaded areas and everything else. So it is a positive thing. Let's just hope that it's just not one of those things in Nigeria where it's a propaganda machine just trying to make
It was
the
just for
government look good.
inauguration day.
I've got a
After that, they
question.
closed it off.
Thank you very
You're
much.
not allowed to
question.
ride if you're not the president.
Right.
Yes.
We are discussing a terminal.
Yes,
Not
literally.
not a new
It's one
airport.
Not a new
terminal.
airport,
No,
a terminal,
it's
yeah.
A terminal.
Not a new
Yeah,
runway.
correct.
Not a new
Terminal.
runway.
You're correct.
A
But you
terminal.
know-
In which case, let's move on for time reasons to this next bit of development. They say from the Vanguard newspaper, Southeast stakeholders to review police reform bill. And I took this story because whenever anything police reform is being mentioned, I think it's important for us to take a look at what's being offered. So they're trying to amend the 73-year-old Nigeria Police Act. Yes, Act is 73 years old. The Senate last reviewed it in 1943. Yes, it is older than the country as exists. But one of the technical partners of the Senate Committee on Police and Defense, Mr. Saluddin Hashim, said the Southeast Consultative Forum, which was third in the regional series to shape the final document, wanted to look at things like changing the name from the Nigeria Police Force to the Nigeria Police Service. The promotion of constables to unifying it with general civil service rules, review of torture provision, because there is a provision on that, review of section on gender provision, among other sensitive sections. So first of all, the name change, Mr. Rinsi, any thoughts on that?
Well,
from force to service.
Well, first and foremost, we have to remember this is obviously what we inherited from our colonial masters.
Yes.
So the
Yeah,
torture,
British,
yes, yes, the British, yes, the British. We'll talk about that later, boyfriend. Review of torture provisions. It just goes to show how bad these people thought
Yeah,
of us.
it was fit
I
for
mean, it
purpose
was,
at the
yes,
time.
at the time.
Yeah.
You need to torture those
Bloody
blackies.
natives, yes,
Yes,
natives.
seriously. Yeah, so it's jarring anyway. So that's not surprising, but what's surprising is that they haven't gotten rid of that. Like a lot of our laws, isn't it? We've inherited it
A bit archaic.
from our colonial masters. The idea of changing the name is actually very, very important. There's so much about a name, and we mustn't take it for granted. Force is much more aggressive. Service is more embracing.
Yeah.
It's more
Now,
indicative of what they're supposed to do.
it's
But, yeah.
certainly more embracing. That's
Changes-
number one.
changes mothers can be-
Exactly,
but
thank
yeah,
you.
but it's
That's number one. Number two is the fact that you then need to start to work on the mindset of the people.
true, that's
Okay, and the people, and they need to start seeing it that what they're giving is a service rather than be there as a force like the soldiers, which I think is what our police get lost as to where they belong. That's number two. Number three is the gender provision. That's really interesting. There isn't much detail in there. It's very vague.
Yes, it's a very
And
general, yes.
we didn't have time to go and sort of research that. I'd like to know what that says, the review of this gender provision. Is it that only a certain percentage can be female? Yada, yada, yada. I really wish we had time to know. Do you know? Being a law, from a law.
No, there was actually a story that came out a few days ago, and I'm just going to confirm, but I think also about when women become pregnant and the force having to leave.
Mhm.
That was a bit of an Keglo, that they were looking at reforming as well.
Good.
Because if
Maybe
that's not the
perhaps
case
that's the gender
for-
provision
if,
there.
if that's not the case for the male police officers, then that should not be the case
Absolutely
for the female police
not.
officers. But I
Even
will
when
double
men
check
do
that.
become pregnant in the
Well-
future.
well,
It,
yes.
yeah, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
They will never
I had
let
to
it
drop in a
happen.
bit of
Men
Friday
will- men will never let
gist
it
into
happen.
there. So
They'll
yeah,
fight
so
it.
but what you read further down, and they're basically saying, look, we're doing this review now. We believe this 8th Assembly is going to pass it, but if they don't, then we have to start all over again. So allow me to quote him. He said, if this bill scales through the end of the 8th Assembly, and if state police bill also passes through it, so that's part of the thing. The state police, actually, apparently it's not provided. They don't make any provision for it in here. It says, yeah, and begin to rework this particular, then we have to go back all over again and begin to rework this particular document. But this police reform bill, as provided for some state, has not provided for some state-led initiatives in the particular act. So it's a very convoluted statement, clearly.
All right.
Quite an inarticulate person said that. But
Okay.
the fact is, what they're saying is, if we don't complete it now, we have to start all over again in the 9th Assembly. You wanted to
Why
add
do you
something?
want
Yeah,
to
just
do
very
that?
quickly, I think my issue is no matter what format we decide to go to, whether we're going to state police or changing the name, the fundamental component needs to be that unless they review the recruiting and training mechanisms of whatever service or force that we have, we're going to continue to have the same problem.
Yeah,
That's where the core issue is you
Yeah.
have to change the way that you recruit and bring people and
Yeah.
onboard them into the police service force, and also the way that they are
Yeah.
trained. They need to go through a rigorous training program, like a 3 to 6 month program at the academy,
But-
as they graduate and come out.
but
of
I
it. So
think it
that's where
goes
the focus
beyond
is.
that. I also think it goes to the point of where you start to turn human beings into less than human, which comes into money, how they get paid, and what happens to them when they die,
Yes.
In service,
Yes.
etc.,
So there
etc.
are all
Further
these
point, there are
things,
all
and,
these things,
and at the end of the day, you have to understand that the act does need to be reviewed if people are going to have a guideline and a code by which to stand by and follow. And yes, talking about some of the regulations with regarding gender, yes, there is the issue of unmarried women not being allowed into the police force. So
Unmarried.
Unmarried.
well, if you're pregnant and unmarried.
Unmarried.
Pregnant
Pregnant
and
unmarried. So it
unmarried
must
together.
indicate that
Yes.
you're very low moral fiber, I
Exactly.
presume.
Yeah.
They
I
won't be
presume.
wanting me
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
So that's
So I
that's the thing. Yes, it says that.
1970
Yeah.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah, 1940 though, sorry.
All right. Anyways, we carry on. We've got more stories to get into. Up next, speaking of the police, Interpol have issued an arrest warrant for Alison Madwicke. That's what we're being told. You will remember that she's been in the United Kingdom for the past 3 years, and attached to the extradition request that was put forward by the EFCC was an order for her arrest by Justice Valentine Ashley of the FCT High Court. But they'd also directed that for her to be extradited, they would need an arrest warrant internationally. So Interpol has issued that apparently. No, you can't find it on the website because I don't think she's a mastermind criminal of the whole world. But those are the developments so far. Mr. Racy, your
Yes,
comments?
but you do have 2 male Nigerians on the website. A hero born Nathaniel, 53, and Ernest Kennel, 49, wanted for advance fee fraud. So I don't know if she's wanted for something. I don't see why she's not on that list, actually, to be
Well,
frank and
that's
honest with you.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And if we're going on about, Madam Diamond's Blink, Mrs. Blink herself,
And all these are still allegations.
yeah,
and things.
well, that's all very well. Mrs. Blink herself. Where's Kola Aluko? What's happening with him? Where's Rigide Mokri or whatever his name is? What's happening with him? Because we keep going on and on and on. And these people seem to have disappeared into the ether. No, somebody needs to tell us what's going on. Now, I agree with my brother here, the handsome on the left, not the handsome on the right. The handsome on the left, because who said she should not be brought back? No, please don't bring her back. Tear up that warrant, leave her over there, because she will not be doing, in fact, any jail term she does here will be under police protection, right? She'll be traveling all over the place. She'll be with a chieftaincy title.
You believe?
With, oh gosh, stop it. Chieftaincy title. She will be the one sponsoring all the concerts. She will have, what you call those police cars that follow you back and forth.
Convoys.
That's the one.
The
Convoys all
escorts.
over the place.
Alright.
So please keep her abroad, because the only way Buri was actually able to actually serve any term is because he was abroad. So keep her abroad. Let her serve her time. They don't bring her back, please. No.
All right, thank you very, very much. All right, let's carry on though. We've got messages to get through. Yinka says, "Folu that savage one terminal hashtag." Anyways, and now when these guys gather in their white flowing agbadas to commission this, I must ask myself, what should we be commissioning at this time? We are late. Build the thing, cover your face, and move on. Because we don't
Adio.
understand. This is the same reason why the president flew down from Abuja to come commission a bus station
Thank you.
at Ikeja.
Yeah.
They could have commissioned if they really wanted to commission for the sake of show off. While Shegu says that walkway from MMI terminal to the car park though in 2018.
You know, someone explain it. Someone
Like,
just
as in
explain it.
seriously.
While Atonia says for a project that takes 9 years from start to semi-completion, what are the odds that the technology attached to it is obsolete and dead on arrival?
It is
Nigeria
already.
deserves better.
It's already too small.
Right, but Bingus says, I commend the administration for its policy of completing projects that have been initiated and started in the early 2000s.
That's
by the
true.
previous
That's true.
administration,
That's
as
true.
against playing the dirty politics of abandoning these projects
That's
uncompleted
a good point.
and initiating their
Fair
own
point.
projects, which might not also be completed. The country as a whole is a great beneficiary of this laudable policy, as we're now drifting away from a country of uncompleted and white elephant projects to a country of completed projects. So kudos. Okay, thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. And Ike says already we have many pregnant policemen in the country.
Thank you.
We're not about
Equality.
to ban, we're not about to ban the
That's the
consumption of
best
beer,
comment
are
today.
we?
Are we?
He says.
Exactly.
But they do look pregnant.
Okay, thank you very much. While Awuli from Lekki says, please leave Madam Diamond to the UK to be tried. She can come back after serving her term there
Thank
for
you.
royal welcome and chieftaincy title.
Yes, dear.
Let's carry on. From the New Telegraph, Labour is threatening a strike over the new minimum wage. That's according to the New Telegraph. And Waji, I'm going to you for this. They're saying they've given the federal government a 10-day ultimatum for their bill on the tripartite committee's report to be transmitted to the National Assembly. They say a failure to transmit that bill, they cannot guarantee industrial peace and harmony. There you go. It's a very interesting way of putting it.
I mean, once again, I understand the spirit of it because, you know, this minimum wage thing has been going on for so
Saying
long.
stop messing around. We keep having this discussion.
But then my further issue is that, you know, the labor union has somewhat lost the luster that they used to have to be able to call up these industrial strikes to garner people to actually protest in the manner to now effect any kind of change, especially when the Occupy Nigeria movement happened, I think back in 2011, 2012. So it's a bit of a shame that NLC are pushing this, even though people may not respond because NLC has somewhat lost that energy, has somewhat lost that ability to lead with these kind of protests and everything else. But at the same time, people should not confuse the issues that they may have with NLC with actually what they're trying to push forward. And the issue is that this minimum wage component needs to be changed. Nobody living in Nigeria in 2018 can survive off of that amount of money. It's just not possible. There have been all kind of economic analysis to indicate that a Nigerian who is working and has some kind of job, in order to have some kind of living wage that now directly correlates to having some sort of sanity, needs to earn a lot more than this. You know, somewhere in the ballpark of I think 90 or 100,000 a month for you to be able to have some kind of sustainability with where you live and you pay your bills and if you have kids, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it's a bit unfair that any human being that you expect to work for you should be making this kind of money as a living wage is actually the problem. So I appreciate the spirit of it. I just hope that NLC can build back their credibility in order to lead industrial action if necessary if these things don't change.
They
All
can't.
right, thank you very much. We also have, just to sort of segue into something else, there are two things that I want to point out. One, that the NLC president did call on Nigerian workers to be vigilant and be prepared to campaign and vote against candidates and parties that are not supportive of the implementation of the new minimum wage. But the other issue, which I think will lead over to Tunde, talking about the federal government releasing their 820 billion naira capital expenditure for the MDAs, it sort of links a little bit to the budget. Another big concern is looking at how the benchmark for oil in our 2019 budget proposal, first one I think is about 60 or so. It's higher than what the current price for oil is, I believe.
Oil is a
Exactly. Looking at that and the reality that with already spending so much on recurrent expenditure, the increase or affecting this change anytime soon is going to have this calamitous effect.
Yeah. So I mean, being that you started with the new budget, it's the benchmark for oil and production. But production is a bit more realistic because I mean, keeping things moving the way Nigeria has been to manage that. But benchmarking $60 is very risky.
You have no control over what's going to happen.
The other point to notice, we noticed how very quietly they moved to recurring expenditure, creeping up, budget year after budget year. That's the difference between when you're standing on the outside saying this is how to run the ship, and then when they actually hand the reins to you and you realize the the size of the nature of the beast that you have to manage. So that was the thing. Okay, but back to the story. They've
From the
released,
Daily Times,
from the Daily
yes.
Times, they've released 120 billion naira to the MBAs, which represents 43% of the criminal budget.
Yes, that's
And
820.
820. And my first reaction is in the last month of 2018, literally in the last month of the year, and it doesn't stop there. It gets better. They intend to push this to 1.1 trillion before the end of December. What time would they have to spend this money?
Or what is the money
And
going to be
what?
spent on?
What will it be spent
So
on?
close to an election is happening.
Yeah, right. So it's really shocking. To me, this whole story just points out that money is being released and it's falling through a hole that no one can really identify. Because it then points out there's explanation as well. When it explains the 1 billion, the depletion, so to say, in the excess crude account, $1 billion USD, not naira,
Yes.
1 billion USD was taken out for that. Very multi-purpose statement that we use now for security.
Security,
purposes.
that's it.
That thing that
Blankets.
can be questioned, can be asked. And my thought is that it seems like we have another Santa in the making. I wonder if years to come, this guy will share the same cell with Desmond.
Thank you very much for that. Waji, let's go back to people who may not be going to work or will they. The court has stopped National Assembly workers from going on strike, according to this day newspaper, and it's the National Industrial Court that has restrained the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria from engaging in acts that may lead to the closure of the National Assembly. Over to you.
Quick question from a legal background. Can a court actually prevent any particular group or association from protesting?
Absolutely. Especially if
If it's
somebody
an illegal
seeks if somebody seeks an injunction against you for doing that, and you can.
Okay, and if you go ahead and protest, you'll be arrested.
Guess.
More or less.
More or less. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There are consequences to that action.
I just wanted to understand because the individuals of this particular association, the Parliamentary Staff Association in Nigeria, are engaging in what may be a protest, and they're being prevented from doing so. And I always have a fundamental issue with this because I think every group, especially if you represent the interest of people, whether they're from a salary point of view or any kind of issue, should be allowed to have their voices articulated. Now, whether or not you respond to those voices is another component, but I am not a fan of any legal mechanism preventing a group or association from protesting.
It doesn't stop you from expressing yourself. It's
Yeah.
stopping them from shutting down. And again, pay attention to the
Yeah.
wording, from engaging in acts that may lead to the closure of the National Assembly. Because the country and the interest of you've got to think about it legally, not from an emotional standpoint. What is in the interest of wider Nigeria? That is for our processes.
Why
to
do they
continue
wish to go on
running.
strike?
Because they haven't been paid
They haven't been paid.
allowances, and they have not gone on trainings that they're supposed to go on. So they've got a lot of grievances against their bosses within the National Assembly as well.
Right.
And these workers
And
do
these
hold
are the
very
lawmakers.
key,
who
No,
as
the staff
The
of
staff,
the
parliamentary
lawmakers,
staff.
parliamentary
But
staff.
I was trying to land somewhere. I appreciate. Yes, you should not and I think I've said this time and time again when it comes to labor disputes. I'm not a fan of physically shutting down anything. But my issue is that when these courts now begin to intervene,
Precisely.
there is a thin line between you expressing yourself and then you now engaging in acts that actually disrupt the National Assembly. So my issue is that when you get involved, people blur those lines regarding what is your ability and freedom to express yourself versus what the intent of the court is actually saying. So that's why I was asking those questions, and that's why I always want us to be careful, because when courts intervene, the people that now enforce these court orders now begin to take it as something else. If they see people just protesting without necessarily shutting anything down, they will say they're acting on court orders and
I
now
hear
begin to
you.
act violent. And
You are
that's
correct. You are
that is where my
correct.
issue is. So that's why I'm always very wary about courts getting involved, because of the interpretation of those injunctions and how people carry them out is what now leads to problems.
Very correct. Thank you very much for that, Waji. Speaking of strikes, it's sort of strike season. You've got to admit it, as horrible as that sounds. But from the New Telegraph, from the Guardian newspaper next, ASU strike may mar the 2019 polls. INEC is warning this. So Tunde, I'm heading over to you. They are talking about the Academic Staff Union of Universities, saying that it will impact negatively on their preparations for next year's general elections. Because they say it's near impossible for members of the National Youth Service to provide all the ad hoc staff requirements for the Commission, explaining that the electoral body draws over 70% of the staff needed from students of federal tertiary institutions.
Yeah, that figure is quite surprising. 70%.
I didn't know that.
And then by the time you add 4 members, probably standing staff of INEC are probably down to 90, down to 10% or less. Well, in a sense, sort of, you sort of you understand it, but it's still quite surprising. Okay, so essentially they're saying, look, we'd like the students to be back back in school and the strike to end before election happens. I can understand that perspective, but doesn't it sound a bit, selfish? Because they're thinking about the conduct of the elections. What about the lives and futures of these guys? Well, I guess maybe any angle to get the strike over is welcome. Maybe this is something that the federal government would react and respond to, since they haven't responded to anything else. But then the story points out that this category of staff serve as returning officers, collation officers, supervisory, presiding officers, and assistant presiding officers. And I'm like, that's pretty much like the end-to-end end-to-end thing.
It is.
The other thing that needs to be considered, of course, is security. I do hope that parents have to consent to their words, and I doubt that's the case in Nigeria. But it would be appropriate that parents should consent to their words going to participate in elections, because as we know, it can get very violent. And the story does point out from reports. There's a study that was done that points out the states that are most prone to violence, and they're almost all exclusively northern states. Surprisingly, obviously, the usual suspects of Rivers, Bayelsa, and Abia, and notably southwest states and a lot of the southeast states. I guess everyone down here is more interested in business, more than the back of the neck. So yeah, but it's interesting. For one, I didn't know they leaned on students so heavily. But,
Well, I thought it was just NYSC.
Yeah,
This is what we're discovering.
This is
Really.
what
It's
comes out.
students
It's always been
as
the
well.
case,
Yeah,
Okay.
and they recruit over 1 million ad hoc staff over that period of time. So
Thank you very much for that, Tunde. I'll take a couple of messages before we round up with our final story. Pappy K says, Mr. Kupi, not anymore talking about our budget, because OPEC just benched our production to a max of 1.6 million barrels per day for the first half of the year to ensure that oil price remains meaningful. And we budgeted over 2 million barrels per day for our 2019 budget, or 2018 budget.
living in the cloud.
Let's even talk about oil price and the rate we have used to prepare our current budget. We have got hands regarding these budgets, he says. While Jibril from Okota says you can go on strike, but you cannot prevent others from moving, he says. Anyika says over 70% from the federal tertiary institution. Does that not sound like discrimination? I want to assume that's a typo. No, not discrimination, perhaps just necessity. Can they afford other people? That's the question. But a final story from the Punch newspaper, Mr. Ati. We're being told that a suspected Boko Haram chief, who goes by the name of Umar, was arrested by the Inspector General of Police Intelligent Response Team on Thursday in Lagos. They say that Umar is the most deadly and most wanted Boko Haram leader in Abuja and the mastermind of the Kuje and Ianya Abuja bombings in 2015, the gang leader of the Galadin Mawa roundabout attack, in which 7 police officers were killed, and he's got quite a rap sheet. What are your thoughts on this?
And they announced
What
this on
worrying-
Instagram.
development?
Yeah, that's what's worrying.
Yeah.
Yes, he's been arrested. Fine, that's great. He's been arrested. They found him in Lagos. They had chased him in Abuja. They tried to, I don't know. He had what you call it. Apparently, he had gun wounds or whatever, shots or whatever in
please note
Abuja.
that the Jimo Moshid, a force spokesperson, has only said, "I'm aware of some arrests made by the team. He's in police custody today."
That is that one. But the fact of the matter is, it says here, a member of the team who broke the news on Instagram.
Yes, it
That is disgraceful.
Why?
Because why are you breaking such news on Instagram?
Because it's new media and it's fast.
No, nonsense. No. That's nonsense.
I don't
At
agree
the
with
end
it.
of
I'm
the-
just
yes,
saying,
I don't care how fast it
Whose
is.
Instagram account?
I'm They didn't use Folu's one, no.
relatively certain that it's the platforms. No,
I'm
the
relatively
Punch.
certain that this is actually
Okay.
gossip.
No,
I
if it's
bet
their
you
platform.
anything. I bet you anything. Putting this on Instagram was somebody's overzealous gossip that got on Instagram.
Which is why
This
we've
would
said,
not have
which
been
is why
approved.
we've said like anything else, it's still an allegation. Like anything else.
Yeah,
the
but
force
even
police
but they
is
should
saying
still
certain
not
things.
be allowed. This is still not allowed. It is wrong on every level. I don't care how far social media is. You're going to make an official statement, fine.
Interesting. But the
Put
BBC
it all
break
over.
news on Twitter
No,
and
allow me. No. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. If you're going to break news properly across all the media platforms. Do not put gossip on Instagram. You can't justify it for you.
I'm not, but I'm also just pointing out that there's a lot missing from there. We don't
Yeah,
know whether or
I
not
do-
it was broken
we-
across
yeah, so
all their social
it
media
doesn't
platforms.
matter.
This is writing.
It doesn't
So
matter.
that
The
could be a
fact is,
writing
we are
mistake.
it doesn't matter. I am not here to defend them. I am here to actually analyze what is in front of me. And what is in front of me says the news broke on Instagram. That is wrong. When they give us more information, then we'll give them the accolades. Right now,
Right.
that is very wrong. Okay, but yeah, he's been arrested. Lovely.
Yeah, well, Well, we'll wait and see if it's truly the person.
And I'm not gonna follow the police
maybe a
Instagram
double.
handle to find out
Maybe a
when
double from
major
somewhere else.
criminals are arrested. No.
EJ from Arepo says, good morning crew, I'm really enjoying the analysis today. I do like freshly pressed juice, thank you very much. And Wings says, we've forgotten that the 2018 budget runs till May of 2019. Sincerely, I don't understand the criticism of the disbursement to the NDAs. If we also criticize the disbursement because it's close to the elections, should we now as a country put a halt to governance because of forthcoming elections? I don't get that, indeed. Thank you very much. And someone else, Yinka, very upset about the news also breaking on Instagram. Should such news even be broken at all? A question for journalists.
There you go.
Anyways, we've got to carry on. We'll carry on with sports inside of the locker room at 8:15. Thank you to our analysts. Please find them on social media. Yes, and she's also on Instagram.
What?
Is that
Why are you
Lagos?
giggling?
You've got, of course, Tunde Kofi's at Big Cups, and you can find Waji as the corporate MC with a K. I will still be here on your radio, Lagos, all the way through till 10 a.m. Good morning.
Why are you giggling?
I was giggling at Instagram now because you just had this.
That thing really wound me up. I'm like,
It's new media, though.
yeah, but what I'm saying is that, no, what I'm saying is, it should be an official.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
The Instagram handle. Yeah,
No,
social
it doesn't even
media
say. What I'm
first.
saying is, if it, no,
That's my point.
it should be.
That's where it's going.
No, what I'm no, that's not what I'm
understand
saying.
what
I'm
you're
saying
saying. I
that
do understand what you're
it should be
saying.
official Instagram, Twitter,
That's
understand
fine.
what
That's
you're
why I
saying.
asked whose handle.
It
That's
doesn't
why-
even say. It just says one of them.
And that's
That's
my
what I'm saying
point,
is
right?
gossip.
Is
Yeah,
that
but
you
if it's
can't-
But it says one of them.
Yes.
No, it doesn't say which handle.
And that's my
If it was
But
their
we're
handle,
doing,
it's fine.
but that's conjecture. We
Yes,
have to go
but,
with the
I
story.
don't
that
know.
was.
but by criticizing it
That's
for
right.
not being on other things, that's also conjecture.
I didn't criticize it for not being on other things. No, I didn't. I said it was broken on Instagram. I only mentioned Instagram. You
Yes.
mentioned other things. So
but you
no,
did
what
say
I'm
if
saying
it
is
was across other
no,
things, that's
yeah,
different,
no.
'cause
I
then
said that
mentioned
later.
BBC breaks
No,
news
no,
on
no,
Twitter.
no. Allow me to finish. That's not what. You
We're
can
still
replay
recording.
it.
Okay,
Folu,
are we?
you
Okay,
can
cool.
replay what I
Please,
said.
why did you open
My
the door?
thing
No,
was.
open the door. It's hot.
My thing was, you can replay it. The first thing I said was, yeah, this guy was arrested, but it was broken on Instagram because that's what's in front of me. You then came on and you said it's new media, etc. And I said, it doesn't matter. If it had been broken across all media, that's because you said BBC, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
The fact of the matter is when it actually says one person, so that implies that it's gossip. It doesn't imply that it's
It was
official.
Alright.
That's you. No.
understand
You
that.
broke
You're
into
not
analysis.
listening to
You.
me.
I heard you.
No, you're not.
You said
you're
it's
saying
new
what I'm saying, but
media.
you're not listening to
You
what I'm
said it's
saying.
new media.
I know, but let me fit. And my point is still this. By still saying if it was broken across things, that's different. I said, okay, no problem, but we don't know that it wasn't. And that's a fault of the writing. The other thing that,
Yeah,
the other
but-
point I wanted to make, which you haven't let me make yet, so I've not even mentioned it, is that we have rumors that are posted on the pages of our newspapers all the time. That we talk
But
about.
that doesn't make it right.
I didn't say it's
and
right.
that's my
I'm
point.
just
Yeah, but that was
mentioning
just
it.
my
Because when I
analysis. Is
mention
that
it, you don't like that
something?
I mention it. I mention
No,
it
no,
for
no.
the sake of other people.
No, it's
Just
not
to
that. What
mention.
I'm saying is that
Okay.
my thing was this is interesting news, but the way it's broken, it was broken, and the story.
Yeah.
We always have to remember that when we analyze based on what is in front of
I
us,
understand
not
that.
based on what we think may have been.
No.
That becomes an added.
I'm not-
And in front,
I
and the
never
only
do
thing
it on
I
what I
didn't like,
think. I
it's even
suggest
the way the
options.
story was written.
Yes.
Is that one of them said it on Instagram.
That
That
for
says
me, what I
gossip.
thought would have focused on was